I've got an HLU error on the screen of my 390 Duke. When I search online, I'm not finding a lot about it. There's people talking about it, but not many people saying how to fix it. So let's have a look and see if we can fix it. Now, I don't think on my bike that this is actually broken. I think the problem is wiring. I hope it's not this, because this is quite expensive to replace. I've got a video on how to take this off, so I'll let you watch that if you want to know how to do that. And let's dig into the wiring. The best forum answer I saw for how to fix the HLU error is that they are mostly caused by earthing faults, and that I would agree with. So let's have a look at where the earth points are on the bike so that you can take them apart, clean them, put them back together. Now, if you want to use something like dielectric grease when you put it back together, you can, but what I would typically do is once they're clean and pulled back in, is to put some grease over them to stop them corroding again. The main earthing point for the bike is here. This is why here runs down from the battery earth and it bolts onto the bike, onto this bolt here. There's a secondary wire that comes up and around from this, and it comes down here and it bolts onto this engine mounting bolt here. So frame and engine are earthed here. You've got an earth point here which is on the starter motor. So these are your two main earth points for the bike. That one's a little bit hard to get out, but this one is fairly simple. So you can take this one out, clean it up, put it back in and make sure it's a good earth here. But that's not the only earths on the bike. Most of the electronics on the bike hide up here. You've got the ECU just under the tank. You've got your indicator flashers and such here. And the ABS pump is just below it. So there's a lot of electronics here. And just here, there is another earth point. And there's a second one on the other side of the headstock as well. So you've got two earth points. So take those apart, clean them, and then you've done most of the earth points, or the most important parts of the earth points on the bike for the main wiring harness. If you've cleaned these two at the headstock and the one down for the battery, then you've cleaned all of the earth points for the main wiring harness. So you should be fairly happy that there are no more earth faults on the bike. With the headlight out the way, you can see there is a lot of wiring under here. Now I've pulled this all out and picked it apart because I was trying to find where the problem is on this bike. And down here is the headlight connector, and it goes into a bundle of wiring. I've taken the loom tape off this particular piece. Normally it looks like this. As you can see, typically as with headlight units, there's a lot of connectors for the switches and such on the handlebar and the headlight, and there's a lot of stuff happening here, and it's all rammed in there tightly, so it's quite possible to get things damaged inside there. Down the bottom is where the wiring comes in, and I've cut the zip tie here, and it's protected by this tube, so it should be nice and safe from wear. But this is the main earth lead coming in. It's a black lead with a yellow stripe, and it comes in and then it gets split out into lots and lots of little earth leads that go out into the various looms. But what I found was this. The main earth wire had actually snapped inside this tube, and that's from the constant moving the forks backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And obviously this wire was too tight, so it was getting stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched every time you put the bike to full right lock, and eventually it just broke apart. So what we need to do is to fix this. So I've taken all the tape off of here. You'll need to do the same, and then we can get at it from the side. Before we get into that, we can do a little bit of confirmation that the problem is there. We can see it is here because we can see this wire is broken. But if I turn the ignition on, if I put the indicators on, the rear indicators are flashing, but the front indicators are not. The starter doesn't work, and the horn doesn't work. So although this is still working, this clearly has its own earth. The problem with everything based on here is that there are no earths on the forks. All the earths are reliant on the main earths on the spike itself. So this earth wire coming up here is where all of this is earth. If I were to reconnect this, all of this starts working again. So if the things on the handlebar are not working, but the rest of the bike is, the tail lights on, the rear indicators work, the switches themselves are lit up, so there's power to them, then it suggests there is some sort of earthing problem to the handlebars. So let's fix it. Now I've taken the side panel off the bike here so that we can actually see what's going on. And if I pull this back, and we find the other end of this wire. So I need to keep this pulled back. And we need to bring the other end through. And we need to reconnect them. But I don't want to just join them together like this. And if I do touch them together, everything on the front end of the bike works. So we know this is the problem. I'm actually going to add a little bit of extra cable in here because clearly this is too tight. This wire is a little bit too short. And if when you rejoin it, you tend to make it a little bit shorter still. So I want to make it a bit longer so it's got a bit more length to it, so it's less likely to do this. Now, I don't intend to make a how-to wiring video because I don't regard myself as an auto electrician. I will never use solder when I remake this joint. From what I've seen of auto electricians is they don't either. Solder's great if you've got something that's not a bit of wire that's not going to move. But on a bike, especially like this, where the wires are moving and vibrating all the time, it can work hard on the solder, which then breaks and then the wire falls apart again. So it's typically recommended. There people will argue, so I'm not going to get into that, but typically recommended that you crimp the wires. Here, you don't solder them. Now, I know you can get now ones that solder and then hold together inside a tube so they don't move, and that probably works, but I like to crimp, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm just going to splice a bit of wire in here and see whether it works. In the end, I was forced to compromise and just crimp it together at the same length because I didn't have any suitable gauge wire. I thought I did, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is just put this all back together again now. I've used a glued shrink wrap, so that should help hold the pieces of wire together and make that a little bit stronger, but it's now quite rigid, which is its own issue when it comes to actual movement going forward. So we'll see how long that lasts, and worst case, at least we know where the problem is and we can always cut this out and splice in a longer piece of wire further down the road. So let's get this all back together and see how it goes. Headlight is back on. Test of truth. Have we actually corrected the error message? Has it gone away? Does everything work? And no error message. Horn needs a bit of work, but it's working. Bike starts. Job done. So a simple and cost-effective fix for something that could have been quite expensive. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.